Everyone, it's Joelle at Brooklyn Book Doctor. How's it going? We are here today to talk to Megan Caper, who is joining us from California, sunny California, as opposed to freezing cold Brooklyn. We're going to talk today a little bit about the things that come up in the book writing journey. They can be a little bit surprising. And here she is. Here she is. Here is Megan. And what you can do about them. Megan is a part of, hold on. Oh, there we go. Hello.
Hey there.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great. Great to have you here.
Good. Yeah, I just heard you talking about the weather.
I was talking
Um,
about the weather as I always do, saying you must have beautiful sun while we're freezing. We actually have sun today, but it's very cold.
it was raining yesterday, if that helps you feel
Okay.
better. I don't.
Well, let's move on from the weather since it takes up too much of my time anyway. I'm really happy to have you here today and to talk about some of the things that can come up in book writing. And because I know you have been experiencing things in Book Proposal Academy VIP, but more than that is you help people to work with these tools, with tools that you have worked with yourself, and you're going to be offering a course on this. So we want to give people some insight into your process and to what's possible, and then also talk a little bit about the course that's coming up starting April 24th. So why don't we start with you telling us about yourself? Who are you? Where are you?
Yeah.
What do
So
you
I'm Megan
do?
Caper, and I'm in sunny San Diego. I'm actually going to Seattle in 2 days, but for now I'm in sunny San Diego.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm an energy healer and a coach and a channel, and I basically help people work through trauma. And that's not just big T trauma, but it's a lot of the little t trauma that we've all been experiencing this last year. So feelings of loneliness and isolation, or, being cut off from people you love, dealing with a global pandemic, all of those things cause stress or can cause stress. And the way I work with people is just helping them clear stress out of their body through the energy healing, but then also learn these tools for how do we deal with this stuff when it comes up on a day-to-day basis? Like, how do you deal with it in the moment so that you can move through it without it getting stuck in your body and without it causing, eventually emotional or even physical patterns to develop that aren't the healthiest.
Great.
So yeah.
That sounds really, really helpful and really needed right now. So you have been working on a book, and then some things have been coming up for you. So I'm really interested in hearing what's your book about, and then tell us a little bit about what's been coming up and how you deal with that.
Yeah. So my book is really about these four pillars for leading a meaningful and connected life. And I feel like the antidote to a lot of stress and the antidote to a lot of this internalized trauma that we have is leading a connected and meaningful life. So the book is sort of a guidebook or a roadmap to how to do these four pillars, how to incorporate them again in your life in a daily basis using very specific practices and tools, so that you can start feeling a little more like even keeled in the craziness of the world, right?
Sounds
It's sort
good.
of like that metaphor of, there may be a storm going on, but as long as my boat is solid and I have an even keel, like I know I'll make it through, right? So that's sort of what I'm trying to teach people through the book.
Wonderful. That sounds super helpful. Very applicable for so many people. So
Yeah.
you started working on this book in January, and it's a process. And usually this
This
process
process.
involves things that we don't expect.
Hmm.
And one of the things can be that old things from the past come up to visit
Yeah.
us again when we think that they're
Yeah.
over.
I'm quoting Denise Duffield Thomas here. I don't know if you know her work, but she always says, "New level, same devil." So it's like anytime you try to stretch yourself to do something that's out of that zone of feeling competent and comfortable and like, okay, I know how this is going to work out. Anytime you try to do something that's out of that, like, writing a book, that these same patterns are going to come up. So I actually sat down and thought about three things that are coming up for me and how I'm sort of dealing with them that I thought might be helpful for people who are writing a book proposal, writing a book, again, doing anything that's stretching you, like starting a business, adding a new offering to your business, like anything, starting a new job, whatever you're doing that you're like, oh, I don't know how this is going to turn out and it's making me a little anxious. Um, I think these three things would apply. So should I just dive in? Can
Yeah,
I dive in?
dive in. Let's hear it.
Okay. So the first one is imposter syndrome, which I know a lot of us have heard about, but it's sort of this doubt of like, who am I to do this, right? So who am I to write this book? Will people even be interested in this book? And then thoughts of like, but this book has been written before in different ways. Like, other people have written such similar books. Like, will this even be useful? So all of those thoughts that come up. And those thoughts come up because, in our way, our brains are designed to want to keep us safe and want to keep us doing the things that we already know how to do because we generally know how those things will turn out. So when we try and do something where we don't know how it's going to turn out, thoughts come in that sort of maybe try and keep us from that. So what I do for that is I just recognize that these are thoughts. They are not who I am. They do not determine the future. They may or may not be true. I really have no way of knowing if this book is going to resonate with people or not. I genuinely don't know. So the first thing I do is just, okay, these are thoughts. My brain is having thoughts. That is my brain's job. Thank you, brain, for having thoughts. That is your job. Thank you, heart, for beating. That is your job. And then I just sort of do my best to like check in with my intuition. Like, why is writing this book important for me? Why do I need to read this book? And I write this book, and I'm just trying to connect to those thoughts and those feelings.
Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. That's like you do a reframe of saying, okay, I'm having a thought. That's what my brain does. There's no judgment there. And then reconnect with, I have a purpose for this. What is that purpose?
Yeah. Yeah. And connecting with that purpose will then have other thoughts come up. Like, I'm really excited to write this book in case it helps someone. If it just helps one person, that will be, that'll be so fulfilling for me, right? Or I'm really excited to write this book because like I'm bursting at the seams to get this stuff down on paper, right? So reframing it helps me connect to like a different energy source that's not the anxiety, fear energy source and is more sort of the inspiration energy source.
That's awesome.
So that's one. The second one is procrastination. My house is never as clean as when there's a task that I need to do that I don't want to do.
Yes.
And the thing that I do for that is, again, just here it is, right? That's again trying to keep me safe, try to keep me in my lane, right? That's what my brain's trying to do. So I just schedule time to work with no expectations. Like, I may or may not get a sentence on the page. I don't know, but I'm going to set aside this time for me to just be present with writing or with this book or with ideas. I may spend that whole entire time just organizing folders. If that's all my bandwidth is today, great. That's what I did for that half hour. I may spend the whole time meditating, just, like meditating, trying to get inspiration for what I want to write. Cool. But just setting aside, where I may write, 1,500 words and fantastic, right? So all of those are equally good. And so just approaching the procrastination with, again, sort of this, like, I see you and I know what you're doing and I appreciate you trying to keep me safe. And I'm going to schedule this time in and just be open to whatever comes.
So not making the sort of lack of productivity or the lack of inspiration or an act of avoiding even of the thing that you sit down to do, not making that a problem, just allowing it to be there.
Yeah, just allowing it to be there and recognizing that, I think it's almost a pathological belief system that we have, especially in this Western world, of like productivity. And if you look at nature, if you look at the cycles of life, if you look at everything, there is ebb and flow. There are cycles, right? The tides, the spinning of the galaxy, our lives, right? There's always times where there is a lot more of that sort of like yang, moving forward, productive energy. And then there's also that like yin, I'm just going to come back to myself and be energy. Yeah. And I think respecting wherever you are is so important, and not necessarily labeling that yin time as like, I'm not doing anything or I'm procrastinating. Sometimes that is what we're supposed to be doing. So
yeah, you don't know what's going on underneath.
Yeah. And then the third one that I thought of is like the good student syndrome. So this need for like validation or feedback before I move on, or before I like feel like it's okay to keep going, or and that one for sure is something that I've struggled with, and I still struggle with. Whenever I make something new, I want someone else to look at it and be like, "Ooh, this is really good. Keep going." Right? And I think that while that's not necessarily a bad thing to look for, if it's not, if that's what I'm using as my like compass of like whether I should keep moving forward, I need to sort of check in with myself and be like, wait a minute, no, 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 no. What I want to use as my compass is my own inspiration and my own intuition. And yes, checking in and validation are great. So that's one part of it. And also just a feeling of safety and awareness. And this is why I love being in your program, that if I'm completely off base, you or someone else in the program will tell me, right? So having that faith that I have people around me who are supportive, who are caring, who are looking out for my best interests, and will let me know if I'm totally off. And so just trusting the people around me.
That's
um,
awesome. That's awesome.
to,
So you don't
yeah,
have to you don't have to provide, you can tune into what you know is true, but you don't have to second guess whether it's good or not in an external way, because you've got those guidance, you've got that container around you, so you can both trust what's going on inside and also get sort of a what is it, a check, like
yeah,
is this working, is this not working?
yeah, yeah. Or feeling like I have those, what are those things called on the side of the highway that keep you from like
Guardrails.
guardrails, right? Like I have these inbuilt guardrails that there are people around me who will tell me like, no, if it really is something that I'm like
Right.
going way off the road.
Right.
Um,
That's so important, because you're so right that sometimes it's very tempting to give away your own sense of what's happening to the people who are going to give you feedback. And the
yeah,
best combination is when you have your own sense of where the book is going, what you want to do, and you get feedback and think, okay, this is landing or this is not landing. Okay, so what am I going to do to help it to land? And that
yeah,
can only happen when you stay connected to yourself.
yeah. And then also just this awareness that even if I do go completely off-roading and make a huge mistake and have to turn around and make a U-turn, like off-roading is where a lot of the best learning happens, right? So there's no like necessarily like morally bad thing about making a mistake or not being on track. Like those are, again, just like that yin energy is part of the process. Like veering off the road, veering off the course is part of the natural process of anything growing and developing. So, you know, just trusting that it's okay. It's okay if things go wrong. It's okay if, you know, I make a mistake. Or I think I had to completely start over at one point. All of a sudden I was like, nope, this is wrong, starting over. And just recognizing like, okay, that's part of the process. You know, that's what happens. And I learned so much from that first attempt about what wasn't working, you know?
Exactly. I think that where we trip ourselves up sometimes is when we judge what's happening as being wrong or bad or something, and then we stop the creative process that's underway rather
Totally.
than going with it.
Yes, yes. And looking at it as just part of a learning process instead of wrong or bad is such a huge, important perspective shift.
Yeah, that is so powerful. Well, this is so helpful and awesome. From my experience, these are some things that book writers always encounter to
I figured I
varying
probably wasn't
degrees.
alone.
You are not alone. You are not alone. You are right on the money. This is very accurate. And it's something that we're really addressing full on in Book Proposal Academy VIP, which you are a part of, which is such a rich community, and there's so much good work happening in there. And I know these are things that are going to be part of your program that you're launching on April 24th. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that program?
Yeah, yeah. So the program's called Unconventional Tools for Healing. And I call it unconventional because I feel like these are some tools that I've learned along the way that are outside of sort of, sorry, that was my dog making a very weird noise. Outside of the normal sort of like therapy. I mean, I love therapy, don't get me wrong, but like sort of, you know, a lot of the typical therapy or self-help books. And my particular take is this combination. I have a science background. So this combination of like science and spirituality, and like where do those two things overlap, and how can we create tools and practices and awarenesses that take into account both our spiritual nature and our physical nature, because we are both human beings and spiritual beings. So it's a 6 week course, and I go through a whole bunch of tools and practices that you can use to sort of help address stress in your life, help bring yourself back into balance. Again, help get that connectedness, right? That feeling of I have a meaningful life that I enjoy. And I teach a lot of them because not everything is for everybody. So I want you to take what works, use it, and then the other stuff, just table it. Maybe it'll work for you later. Maybe it'll never work for you. Maybe you can tell a friend about it. Who knows? Um, so that's what we do in the class. And I find that like not only is the class useful in terms of the tools, but students have like, made great friendships in the class, which is really lovely because we're like all really connecting on this level of vulnerability and healing in this really great way. Um, so yeah, it starts in a couple weeks on the 24th. And if you want to join, you can just go to my webpage, which is megancaper.com, my name, and then /UTH for Unconventional Tools for Healing.
And that's Megan Caper, Caper.
Like the little green things on your salad.
Like the little green things on your salad, /UTH, Unconventional Tools for Healing.
You got it.
Got it. Awesome. Super. Well, that sounds like a really beneficial course, and I'm sure people will get a lot out of that. Before we go, and I will put the link in the post when I put this, but before we go, I noticed on your website that you are also a pet psychic and you speak hamster. Can you tell us a little bit
I
about
do.
that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I, the story of how I figured I was intuitive goes back a long way, but I realized at one point that it's one of those things that I just thought everybody knew what their dogs and cats were thinking. Like, I just always assumed that everybody knew that. And one day realized, like, oh, not everyone knows where their dog or cat is having pain or what they're thinking or, whatever. Um, and so, yeah, now I do sessions where basically if you send me a picture of your pet, we can hop on the phone and I can sort of give you a reading and let you know. So a lot of times it's helped, yeah, if there's like medical issues that people don't know what's going on, or if people have moved and their pet's having a hard time adjusting, or there's a new pet in the house, or all of a sudden there's a behavior problem cropping up and they don't know why. Like I can connect to your pet and basically have an intuitive conversation with them and get information about what is going on and try to send them information. Like, yes, I know you moved, but this is a safe space and you're going to be okay. Or, you're being fostered right now. This is a temporary home, but you're safe, and, et cetera, whatever it is sort of that will help the pet move along. Well, I have a really nosy pet right now. Do you want to say hi?
I
Are
want
you
to say hi to your
bombing?
pet.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
hello.
Are you bombing that? She does not like looking at the camera.
It's true. She
I'm
doesn't.
this. I'm the same way, babe. I understand. Um,
Well, that is totally fascinating. I'm super interested in that work, and also glad that you said you have a science background. So you're really bringing the science and the intuition to your program as well, to Unconventional Tools for Healing,
yeah.
which is fantastic.
It's interesting. I was a scientist before I started having intuitive downloads. And so for me, that was a whole journey. Like, how do I reconcile my like biochemistry background with the fact that I diagnosed my own cancer intuitively before it happened? Like that, just sort of that whole thing was quite a journey for me. And it's been really wonderful to learn how to integrate both of those systems of knowledge and systems of awareness, because I think they're both valid and I think that they both have important things to say. And I think that each of us get to decide like what resonates with us, in terms of that. So it's important to be open to both ways of getting information, intuition and sort of the sort of more scientific, logical, deductive reasoning type of
I
way.
totally agree with you. I think we use all the tools at our disposal. That's the key to success.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Well, it's been wonderful to talk to you today. And for those of you who just tuned in, Megan has a course starting April 24th, Unconventional Tools for Healing. She's a part of my course right now, Book Proposal Academy VIP, where we're crafting her standout book, which is going to be available to help you on your journey when it comes out. And it's just been such a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm excited.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thanks for giving me
Yeah.
this opportunity to come on your page and talk to your people. I really
Oh,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
It's so great. Thank you so much for coming.
All right. Have a good rest of your
Bye.
day.
You too. Bye
Bye.
bye.